to quickly bring in India Today's Shiv Aroor for more on this story. Shiv, a bit of romanticism apart, to say that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru followed a China first policy to the India first policy now, this is putting Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru directly in the line of fire when it comes to India's troubles with China, especially on the UN Security Council seat, Shiv.
Gaurav, for the last 4 years, the Congress and opposition parties have been talking about how, where is the Lal Aankh as far as the Modi government is concerned vis-a-vis China, especially after the standoff began in Ladakh. The facts on the ground and the perspective from all geopolitical and strategic experts is the biggest losses that India has faced, geopolitically in terms of territory, in terms of war, have all been under Congress or Congress-led governments, whether it is 1962, whether it is 1975, whether it is the Depsang and Demchok issues. Mind you, the only two outstanding issues between India and China, following the standoff, because all the friction points have resulted in, limited disengagements. But the two outstanding issues that the two sides are still talking about happen to be legacy issues that date back to either the UPA government or before. Now, the fact that the Jaishankar, the External Affairs Ministry, has drawn a comparison between the romanticism of Nehru and the realism of Sardar Patel, and drawing that parallel down to Congress governments and the Modi government, is extremely crucial, because this is precisely what the government's defense has actually been based on, saying, who are you to lecture us, especially at a time when we've deployed in a huge way precisely to try and prevent the kind of issues that your governments had created in the past. The romanticism of Nehru that the government and Jaishankar appears to be speaking about now is the huge strategic benefit of doubt that Nehru and Nehru's government, constantly and repeatedly gave to China over many, many different years in the 50s and the 60s, leading up to the 62 war. Yes. It was that kind of self-assuredness that China would never mean any harm, the fact that linkages between the two countries would never really result in any strategic attacks or takeover of territory, that resulted in the 62 war. And those lessons are precisely what has resulted in the realism that what Jaishankar says started or had its genesis in how Sardar Patel viewed China, and has come down to how India has now reacted to China. Everything else, it appears, is just politics.
And that pragmatic approach was there right from the beginning when it comes to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. And that approach was very different when it came to Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And very specifically here, Dr. S. Jaishankar is directly talking about the United Nations Security Council seat, which could well have been a massive game changer for India right in the 1950s. The United States was talking about India being in the United Nations Security Council, and had sent out signals to Pandit Nehru, but he said China first, according to Dr. Jaishankar. History would have been very different had a more pragmatic approach been taken, Shiv.
Absolutely. Gaurav, when it comes to strategic follies or faux pas, the Nehru era provides, a great deal of data, a lot of instances and examples to pick up on at this time. Now, the Modi government is accused constantly of always picking up issues from the Nehru era or blaming things on Nehru. That's a matter of politics. But when it comes to the China issue, things are actually pretty valid here. The arguments are pretty valid, because whether it comes to, the ridiculous generosity in passing over a the Security Council seat in favor of China, practically recommending China, to the kind of Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai bonhomie that preceded the 1962 war, the overconfidence in relations, all that boils down to how the leadership actually viewed China, how the leadership completely misread China's intentions. And that's the reason why you have the current government bring up Nehru, because you have to see it from not just Dr. S. Jaishankar's viewpoint, but also the government at large, Gaurav. Very, very simply put, it boils down to the government saying, who are you to tell us about a China policy when your entire legacy has been bending over backwards as far as China is concerned, and not knowing when the enemy was standing right in front of you? That is what the government is saying right now.